Hello everyone, and welcome to Lexi's English Club. I'm Lexi, your guide to mastering the English language with exam strategies, learning techniques, and other valuable tips. Today we continue a series of videos about how to tackle different exam tasks. On the agenda today is part 2 of the reading and use of English in the CAE and CPE exam. In this video, I'm going to remind you of what you have to do in this task, then I'll do a sample task and give you tips and recommendations along the way. So, are you ready to master one more exam task? Then welcome on board and let's get started. Before we look at the sample task, I'd like to remind you that you can download the exam materials by following the link in the description to this video. Of course, I'm going to show the task in my presentation today, but for your convenience, you might want to do it beforehand. Alright, now let's have a look at the task. On the screen you can see the task instructions and the following questions. Number 1. How many gaps are there in the text? How many should you complete? Number 2. Do you have words to choose from? And number 3. How many words should you write in one gap? Now take your time and look at the task. This will help you refresh your memory of what you have to do there. For that you might need to pause the video and then check with me. Alright, let's compare. How many gaps are there in the text? How many should you complete? There are 9 gaps, but you have to fill in only 8 because the first one is always an example. Number 2. Do you have words to choose from? No, you don't have any words to choose from. Number 3. How many words should you write in one gap? You should write only one word. Remember that it's critical to be aware of what exactly you have to do in the task, especially when you're preparing for the exam for the first time and you're still finding your feet. Alright, now let's have a look at the text. I can't stress it enough how important it is to develop the habit of skimming the text before doing the exercise. I've seen students who started with the exercise first without even knowing what the text they're going to deal with. Unfortunately, it's a mistake which increases the likelihood of an incorrect answer. Alright, now let's have a look at the text that we have today. The text is called Managing Change. To help you comprehend this text better, read it and answer the following questions first. How many suggestions for managing change does the text give? What are they? Alright, here we go. The writer talks about 2 possible ways of managing change. One of them suggests thinking of 3 solutions to a problem instead of the traditional 2, while the other one recommends changing our routine behavior and habits. Okay, at this stage, I'd like to draw your attention to the missing words. I'm sure you've noticed that the gapped words are either grammatical, such as articles, conjunctions, or prepositions, or lexicogrammatical, like phrasal verbs, linkers, or words within fixed phrases. What does it tell us? Well, it tells us that this task tests candidates' knowledge of the structure of the language, which is based on an overall understanding of the text. Right, before you watch further, pause the video and think about which words fit the gaps. Then resume play and then we'll compare. Okay, let's have a look. The first gap has already been done for us. The missing word is the preposition to, which is a part of the verb adapt and refers to the noun change. Okay, and here comes the first gap. What's your answer? Well, I bet some of you put there the article a, which is unfortunately incorrect. And here is why. First, think about the word change, which is definitely a noun. But what noun? Countable or uncountable? And here it's important to remember the difference. The noun change is countable when it means variations or other instances. For example, I have made several changes to the design of the website, which implies that there have been several variations in the design of the website. However, the noun change is used as uncountable when it has a more abstract meaning and means the act of becoming different in general. For example, we need to embrace change and adapt to new circumstances. In this sentence, it means that something is becoming different in general, without any reference to specific instances. Now let's get back to our text. We can clearly see from the title, Managing Stress, that the text focuses on the general concept of change and doesn't give any specific instances or variations. It means that the noun change is uncountable, thus the article A is wrong in Gap 9. But what's then? Look closer at the first sentence. Most people find change unsettling and difficult to adapt to. This is an introductory phrase about people's attitude to change. Then goes the second sentence, which says when people feel like that. In the early years of the 21st century. Which one word would link the example? It is the word such. Look, most people find change unsettling and difficult to adapt to. Many societies have experienced such rapid change in the early years of the 21st century that life can feel very daunting at times. And it also helped us with the second gap, which is the preposition at in the set phrase at times, which means sometimes. Now let's move on to gap 11. Various commentators have gap forward suggestions for coping with a change on a personal level. First, let's determine the missing part of speech. Commentators have done something, which implies that in gap 11, this is a verb in the present perfect tense. Now look at the rest of the sentence. We can paraphrase it a little and say that commentators have given suggestions for coping with change. Which verb will convey a similar meaning? Also, pay attention to the preposition forward that clearly shows that it should be a phrasal verb. So, do you have any ideas? Right, it's a phrasal verb, put something forward, that means to suggest an opinion or idea for other people to consider. Now we have. Various commentators have put forward suggestions for coping with the change on a personal level. Great job! The next paragraph talks about the first suggestion for managing change. It's the following. One suggestion involves thinking of 3 solutions to a problem rather than 2. And you are right. In gap 12, we have than, which is a part of the conjunction rather than, which indicates the choice between 2 options. Let's get going. Gap 13. If you read the sentence carefully, you'll see that it contains a past participle of the transitive verb phase, which provides additional information about people. It has a passive meaning, which means that it needs a preposition with. Here we go. Apparently, many people faced with change respond by considering 2 possible courses of action, but invariably tend to reject both of these. The last paragraph introduces another suggestion for managing change. Here it is. Another strategy advocates learning to avoid set patterns of routine behavior. The second sentence gives an example that illustrates how we can change our behavior. Something simple, like taking another route to work at least once a week. In gap 14, like is a preposition which introduces an example, whereas least, in a gap 15, is part of the phrase at least and indicates a minimal number or amount. The last sentence is the following. Despite the simplicity of these ideas, they nevertheless help prepare people mentally to manage major change if necessary. The preposition despite is used before a noun simplicity and expresses the contrast between the 2 parts of the sentence. In other words, it means that even though these ideas are simple, they can help manage change. Okay, that's it for today. As you see, mastering the task of Open Cloze involves careful analysis of the text in order to pick the appropriate word to fill the gaps. Always remember to skim the text before you do the task and always pay attention to the words that come before and after the gap. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe and share it with your fellow exam takers. And I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Happy studying!